Hey everybody, this is Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and Scooterwest here in San Diego, California. So this is going to be another one of those oddball videos that's more for my subscribers of the YouTube channel Vespa Motorsport. Thanks for following us for all these years. Thanks for supporting our store. But today I'm going to talk about two different things over the whole video, or actually it's kind of like three things. So first of all, this scooter belongs to an employee. She's going to quit. Not because she doesn't like working for us, but she's got to take care of her child. Her husband's going back into the workforce now that COVID's kind of moving on out, and she's going to be the caretaker of her child. So Genevieve, she exclusively commutes on a scooter, and she's had this genuine Buddy 125 Series Italia. Something like a 2007 model she's had for several years. It's got like 12 or 13,000 miles on it, and it's just a nice, reliable in-town workhorse. Gets her to work every day, no problems. Been really reliable, but she's very frugal about keeping it maintained. Just use the tire all the way up. No thrills tires. We're not putting the best Michelin tires. Believe it or not, even the cheaper tires like the Kendas, they may not have the nice name brand like Pirelli or Michelin, but I've found these tires are perfectly adequate for a scooter, especially a lower speed scooter. They're great tires and they're pretty inexpensive, the Kenda brand. And if you're looking for a sportier tire, the Shinko has incredibly soft, grippy compound. That's one of the sportiest scooter tires you can get at a very low price point. But on to the other subject of this video. Well, she's moving on. She is got to be replaced with somebody that's going to help us in our mail order and parts department. Pretty much packing orders, help with receiving tasks, and that sort of stuff. So it's just an entry-level position that's opening up at Scooterwest.com. So if you think you're the fit, maybe continue listening to me ramble through the whole video of changing a tire. Maybe you're watching this whole video just to learn how you change a tire on a Buddy with this kind of basic tools other than the tire machine. I'm just going to use basically these three tools to take the whole entire rear wheel off. Pretty nice. The Vespa definitely takes about double the amount of tools to take off a rear tire. So I'm going to do that in conjunction, and I'm just going to kind of ramble on like the robot sometimes does these days. All right, so let's get this muffler off, and I'll have a 12mm socket ready to go here. And there's two ways you can go about it. You can take the bracket. The muffler is actually mounted to a bracket. It's a real ingenious system. That's why these mufflers last a long time. So there's a 12mm fastener up here. And one down here as well. So we'll get those going. But back to that job position. So, you know, it's pretty much like a part-time, you know, maybe 25 to 30 hours, or even possibly full-time, 40 hours, Monday through Friday position, working in our warehouse, you know, packing orders, working with the shipping department, working with the receiving, because a lot of times we receive goods that need to be put back on the shelf. And it will be just those kinds of odds and ends jobs, you know, more of a warehouse position if that's like your history. Obviously, if you have any scooter or motorcycle experience and knowing the parts, that's always going to be helpful. And obviously there's room to move up here if you have other skills, you know, such as knowing the parts and all that. I know a lot of people want to be a technician, but to get to the level of being a technician here, you got to have lots of prior experience. So removing the muffler, you know, there's a pair of header acorn bolts. I'm using the 12mm socket, same one I was doing. I didn't remove these all the way, but you kind of just go through all four fasteners and loosen up all these parts and get these off. So I'm going to miss Genevieve. Scott, the lead technician for Vespa Motorsport, has known Genevieve because Genevieve is his wife's longtime best friend, like childhood best friend. And I think that's how we hired her, is she's had a scooter and was looking for a position. part-time position we need to fill, so she's been working for us for a while now. And now we got to fill that position. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about it on YouTube before I post something on any of the job channels. So you got all the bolts out. I also removed this little thing that keeps that to the bracket. Then we got to remove the bracket. So another set of 12 millimeter bolts. You can keep these all, these are the set of 5 or 4 screws for the muffler, 1 for this fender. And keeping the washers all on them as well. And we'll get this all off. So pretty cool. So all I've used so far is a 12 millimeter socket and a 10 millimeter socket. So you can see we're at the rear wheel. And 2 ways to go about it on one of these older buddies. The newer buddies have an aluminum wheel. Typically, if we're doing this in the shop environment, we'll want to inspect and clean the rear drum brakes. And you're going to need a 24 millimeter socket. This is on quite, it's quite tight. You can either have somebody really pull the brakes to do it, or you can use an air electric impact to pull this large nut that has like a locking washer. One thing, when this nut starts wearing out, you need to replace it. You can see somebody's put a torque stripe on it the last time they took it off. Torqued it to about, I think it's 90 foot-pounds or 110 foot-pounds. The easy do-it-yourself way to get this wheel off is remove the steel wheel from this aluminum hub. And you can see they're all just 12 millimeter, just like most of the other fasteners that we've been working on. And they're typically pretty tight as well, but go ahead and just remove all those fasteners. And again, it helps if you have a helper pulling the rear brake, to get this lift out of the way. And just go like in a star pattern, kind of back and forth. And I'm just breaking them all free at this point. So that position we have is pretty much open immediately. And you can see she's got a nail in the tire. No wonder why it's flat. It's kind of at the end of its life. It's got a nail in it. It's not worth trying to patch this. And typically in a shop environment, every single time I'd replace the valve stem. These right angle valve stems are a little bit more expensive. The Scooterwest part number for those special right angle valve stems, the high quality Pacifica brand ones, is stem 90. Get all these loosened up. So first of all, always, no matter what job field you're looking for, I know if you go to most lower level jobs, entry level jobs, you could just fill out an application. I kind of require everybody to have a resume. Doesn't necessarily need that you need to write it, but somebody can help you out with it. Just kind of stating your prior experience and just looking at resumes over the years. They don't need to be super long, but they don't need to be super short. There's kind of like a short and sweet range. I'm no expert on writing resumes, but just showing your prior experiences and a brief example of a reason why you want to work for us. That's always helpful. Prior experiences. I've hired people that worked at other scooter shops like Scooterworks, and I've hired people from Florida that worked in other shops, motorcycle shops and stuff, and that's always real useful information. But for the warehouse position, if you have some basic skills of how a warehouse works and picking and pulling parts and reading orders and finding locations and stuff, that sort of stuff, that would be quite useful. So we're going to go ahead and take this tire over to the tire machine, change that out. And the Scooterwest part number on this nice Kenda tire is 350-10K. There's 2 different types of Kenda 10-inch tires we have. There's one that's a slightly more called the Cosmic, and it's, and I think it's KOZ. 350 10 KOZ. Right now we're out of stock on those. A lot of tires have been real difficult to get. There's like supplier issues now that we're in, you know, second quarter of 2021 going into summer. Everything's still a little bit screwed up, and you know, with supply chain issues. But these, we have quite a few of these. Nice tire. So let's go over to the tire machine. I'll show you how it's done nice and quickly. All right, so we're at the tire machine. Definitely makes the job very easy for a tubeless tire. You can watch one of my old videos on changing a tubeless tire with just basic tools and running over it with a truck to pop the bead on it. So I'm going to take the Schrader valve out, just like a bicycle inner tube. It comes right out, and I got the special tool to do that. If I was going to replace the stem is still in really good shape. To show you what a new one looks like. There you go, they're like that, and they would be pushed in from the inside of the wheel. I would just cut this off at the rubber with the big diagonal pliers, but I'm not going to do that. This one's still in good shape. And then I have a bead breaker down here, and it pretty much just breaks the bead of the tire. And oftentimes, if you're not, you can find motorcycle shops, even some car tire shops, they'll change a tire for you with their machine. This machine is filthy. But whatever, it's a working shop, so I got my guys working more than they have time to be clean and stuff. So I got this tire. This is a head that's specifically kind of designed for smaller wheels. And we'll get it set up. And the idea is you set up this head so it doesn't really ride on the wheel or scratch up the wheel. And I got soapy water, kind of makes the job a little easier. And I think if you watch all the videos I've done, I've covered this machine in the past. So back to the jobs thing. So if you do have a resume and you're like maybe looking to work for Scooterwest.com, always consider sending it to us. You know, Scooterwest, it's jobs@scooterwest.com is the email. And get that tire out of there. There's the nail somewhere in there. This will go to the tire recycler. And always important to kind of wipe the inside of the rim, make sure it's clean, look at the rim, don't just go to town putting the wheel on it. Look at the stem from the inside. The tires are directional. These lower speed scooters, you don't really necessarily need to balance them. I do balance like things like a GTS, anything that goes on the highway, there's a drive, so that's facing forward. So the wheel kind of goes like this, so drive will go like this. There's also a yellow or sometimes a red dot. That lines up with the valve stem. It's just an approximate balance mark for the tire. And I got this like snot that goes onto the tire right here. You could just use soapy water, that works as well. This stuff works a little bit better, and it seals the tire a little bit better, which is a nice thing with these little tires. Do anything you can to keep a minimal amount of air loss. So it's kind of like a special grease. You don't want to use grease or oil. That's not very good for the rubber compound. But you can see you almost could get the tire on without the machine. Then let's get this other side on. There we go. So get that little dot set up, unclamp the tire. The tire, there's no Schrader valve in there. I just want to hear the two pops and let that tire seat. Two pops, that's put that Schrader valve back in. That's even with a new stem. I always typically want to inflate the tire for the first time without a Schrader valve, so you can get quite a bit of air in there. And obviously you're not going to do that with a hand pump. You need to have like a compressed air out of a tank to get air into the tire fast enough usually to make it seat. So kind of a lot more work. We're gonna get this right about 34 would be good. Put the cap, it's always important to put the cap on these tires. So there you go, got a tire all freshly installed. So let's go back to the scooter. All right, so pop the wheel on, you got the studs, they're all in good shape. Always check all the hardware with your wheels, brakes, you gotta look at all this stuff and not just assume it's good. Just good to inspect it. Always good to check the oil. It looks nice and low. There we go. That's not really low, that's actually in the safe zone, but it's getting lower in the dipstick. I'll probably add 100 cc's would be probably the appropriate amount to bring it right back up to the top mark. So I'll do that before I send the scooter on the way. So you got your 5 nuts. Make sure these little like locking tabs are all in there. If they don't have friction, see, they're very difficult to turn on the studs. That's actually a good thing because they do. That's what allows these nuts to lock, you know, and not self-loosen up. I've never seen them really have problems, but something you want to always notice or keep an eye on when you're working on something like this. And if you were going to use a torque wrench, about 16 foot-pounds for something this size, just do it with this little 1/4 inch ratchet. Get them all hand tight, or a little bit more than hand tight, just where I've seated each of the nuts. So now it's important to keep track of which ones you tighten. So kind of just a little bit of effort with the wrist is about 16 foot-pounds. And believe me, it's not a highly critical torque, but, and there you have all 5 of those all tightened up. Next, we'll get this bracket on. And it's always important to get the bolts started. Don't just tighten one all the way down, never get the other one in. So again, maybe it'll speed up if you have like a nice extension like this. It's got knurled. And honestly, you could spin it by hand and that makes it a lot easier. This one, not so much, but it's sometimes nice to use hand tools, you know. Obviously, if you want to do this job nice and quick, you use power tools to do it. So again, just a little bit of effort with the wrist, and that's about 16 foot-pounds there. So the more critical fasteners are the header and the muffler fasteners, all 8mm on these. Rarely see problems with these. These gaskets last quite a long time. If that's really flattened out or you hear a little bit of exhaust leak, maybe time to replace that gasket as well. So pretty much I'm looking for those pair of studs on your cylinder head, and those are the critical pair that you want to line up first. Get one of the nuts up, you know, just get it started so it's holding the pipe in place. And at this point, we'll go ahead and get the fastener started. And sometimes you'll have difficulty doing this, and oftentimes the case is you might need to take the pipe and just bend it a little bit in a vise to kind of get everything to line up. You don't want to have to, you don't want to stress the pipe. Everything needs to thread into place. You don't want to cross thread these screws. Real easy to do. If you do something like that and damage the threads in that bracket, you could always put a longer bolt in there and just put a nut on the back side. So, you know, this one just a little bit, but there's not much up there. So it looks like it started, no problem there. So at this point, I'll just get all of them just right where they just stop. You know, still the pipe's just slightly loose, not really loose. So right where that stops, right there. And now that those two have stopped, we're gonna go tighten the pair of header bolts right here. And it doesn't get much easier when you don't even need anything other than some basic tools, a 12 and a 10. The front, actually, you're gonna need a larger wrench. I think you'll need a 19 and 14 or a 17 and 14 if I recall. Remove the axle bolt. So go ahead and tighten a pair of header nuts with, you do wanna use a torque wrench. Same as any of those other 8mm fasteners, 16 foot-pounds. All right. And we got all 4 fasteners for the muffler tightened down. Now we can put this last one in here. Top off the oil, and we're pretty much done with Genevieve's project. Send her off with a nice new tire. You might want to use one of the red line funnels. Works really well with these kind of scooters with that angled fill spout. A lot easier than trying to pour it from the bottle in there. I'm just going to pour about 100 cc's. Right now this bottle has 350 in there. And that should bring it right up to the maximum mark. And there we go. So that's about 100 cc's. Obviously, make sure it's all dribbled down. I was still probably dripping a little bit. Let it settle. Let's see if 100 cc's did it. So it's on a level surface on the center stand. That's how you check a buddy. You don't thread the dipstick in. If the Vespas, you always thread in. These ones you don't. And right there at the 3/4 mark, probably add another 75 cc's of oil. And it would bring it right up to the top mark here. So. There we go. One more check. So dry dipstick, probably doing this a little quick compared to my normal how-to videos. And yeah, that's good. It's right up there at the 80% mark, a little bit higher. So, well, thanks for watching. Thanks for making it all the way through this video. So whether you just were inquiring on how to change a tire on a buddy scooter, hope that helped you out. Pretty simple to do when it comes to scooter tires. Can't go wrong with the genuine buddy. If you're looking for a very simple, like well-designed scooter that's very reliable and has a very long life, this is probably the #1 choice that I would pick. They're not, for me, they're not the most comfortable scooters. They're a little squirrely. They got flexi frames. There's a lot of pitfalls of them. They don't have that, like, you know, quality ride like a Vespa does. But if you're looking for no thrills, low cost transportation, you cannot go wrong with a used buddy. Very rock solid motors. They're less complicated than many of the Honda and Yamaha offerings. You know, like the Yamaha Vino, it's much slower than these scooters. They have exhausts that fall apart on them. There's a lot more problems with a Yamaha Vino than something like a 15 or 10-year-old buddy scooter. So if you're in the market for a low price point scooter, this is it right here. Again, if you're looking to possibly work for the team at Scooterwest.com here in San Diego, consider sending your resume to jobs@Scooterwest.com. Currently, as of April 2021, we're looking to fill a warehouse and stocking position, maybe basically stocking orders, packaging orders, just basic skills. You need to be able to be on your feet for several hours and moving around a lot. You know, moving throughout the warehouse, going up ladders, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the physical activity of that job position. Some basic skills of the computer also helpful, but yeah, that's open. Never know when we got a job position open here. So thanks again for watching. It's a Robot here from Scooterwest.com and Vespa Motorsport. Hope you found something useful in this video. Till next time.